All right, man, we got it all set up. We got it.
Woo,
We're
woo.
ready. We're ready to rock and roll.
We are
Rock and
here.
roll. I'm so excited. Welcome to this week's Playing to Win. Wow, I'm super excited. It's been a long time coming to feature my good friend, an amazing inspiration to many of us out there, Wendy Papasan. Welcome to the show, Wendy.
Thank you. Glad to be here. Woo.
Woo,
Happy
the
New
crowd.
Year.
It's so awesome. You know, with you, I want to go a couple different directions because you and I have known each other a long time. We go to each
We go
other's
way
birthday.
back.
We're old school, right? I mean, we
Yeah.
go to each other's birthday parties. We know we have children similar ages, and honestly, you inspired me when I moved to Austin, which has been 11 years ago exactly, which is crazy. It's crazy, and because my son turned.
Well, it's crazy you've been a team leader for this long, honestly. I think
It
it means
is.
that you're crazy.
I think it is because I think it's in dog years, right? So you say 14 and a half years times
It's like
seven.
77 years as a team
there,
leader.
there should
Well,
be
that doesn't even count Reno.
no, exactly. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So do the math on that. And so anyway, one of my biggest struggles is when I made that move to Austin. I was so excited, and you and I hit it off right away. And I really struggled at home. I really struggled at home because what I didn't realize is that I left my whole core, my support system, because I have a husband that travels to Germany. They were gone, right?
Yeah.
And so here I was in a new city with a first and fourth grader. And man, I was stressed out that first year and a half, 2 years. And you were the one that really inspired me that sometimes the help you need is at home. And when I met you, I didn't have a house cleaner. I didn't have anybody helping in the yard. I didn't have anybody helping with my kids. And here I was. And it's my friendship with you and the conversations we had that changed my whole mindset on that. So I just want to publicly thank you for being an inspiration to me, my friend.
You're welcome. Yeah, you're welcome. I love that. Yeah. Well, we're all learning and sharing and learning and sharing. And that's what we do here at KW, right?
That's what we do. So let's talk about your story because I think how you started out is really unique and quite an inspiration for anybody hearing this, hearing your story. You didn't start in full time. Why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, hi everyone. I'm Wendy Papasan. I run the Papasan Properties Group here at Keller Williams in Austin. And I actually think that my journey is pretty similar to a lot of people because a lot of people do start in real estate part time. And I started my real estate journey as a real estate investor. So a lot of you probably know my husband. He's been working for Keller Williams for 20 plus years now, which is crazy.
Wow. Crazy, right? Yeah.
Yeah, makes your 11 years look like nothing.
Right.
And so I was in real estate invest. So I quit my job when my kids were born, and I kind of got the investing bug, and I did that for several years, and then actually I got my when my son was about to go into kindergarten. I thought, well, I'll get my real estate license because that'll help me save money on investment properties. So my goal was really low that year. I had a 3 and a 5 year old, and my goal was to make $15,000 because I thought if I could make $15,000, I could buy another rental property.
That's
Way,
amazing.
way back when in Austin, when houses were a little bit cheaper.
That was like what, 2010 or 9?
2009. Yeah,
Okay.
2009. My son went to kindergarten September or whatever, 2009. And of course, any of you that were alive and kicking and doing real estate in 2009 know it was kind of a tough time. But I didn't really care because my goals were really small. I ended up doing really well my first year in real estate. My goal was to make $15,000, which is like, it's so low, honestly, Wendy. It's like at least 25, you know what I mean? But for a lot of people, that is what real estate represents. And $15,000 is nothing. It's a lot of money,
Right.
for most
Right.
people. And so that first year I ended up making $85,000, which was more than I'd ever made in a year in my life. I worked for the state of Texas before I had my kids, and I think I made about half of that my last year there. So it was a pretty significant jump for me. And
You were still part-time that first year, right?
I was part time. Yeah, so I stayed part
Right.
time um, until my youngest went to kindergarten a couple of years later. So
That's
yeah.
amazing.
Yeah,
And
so
and then you were somebody, sorry to jump in here, but you got the idea or you saw the value very early on leverage.
yes. Yeah. Well, the gift that I had, of course, is that Jay, even though he's never been in the day to day part of real estate, he has interviewed hundreds of realtors, thousands of realtors over the years and knows what it's like
Yeah.
and really was able to counsel me from the beginning and just say, "Hey, why don't you get some leverage right away? I want to keep you as a wife and mom." And not that he wanted to keep, that sounds weird.
No, no, it's
But
it's it's
but
it's a wonderful
he
thing.
wanted his wife there, right? He
Exactly.
wanted his wife there, and I wanted to be present with my family. And so pretty much right away, I hired someone to do my contract to close because at the time, and it's still so cheap. I mean, at the time, my commissions were about, I think my average price point that first year was about 180. So my commissions were maybe like $5,500. And I thought, wow, I can still keep about 5,200 of that, and somebody else will take those closing details off my plate. To me, it seems like a bargain. And when I meet people who don't have help in that arena, I really don't understand it because it seems like such a great deal and easy leverage.
Right.
Also, that person was able to teach me best practices, so I didn't have to like fuddle through it on my own. And honestly, I'm not really good at it. I mean, if you asked me to do a contract to close for, we've had 1,600 past clients, I couldn't do it. So
I relate to that. And what's really amazing is also you had help at home. I remember you telling me, one of your first EAs that you hired, so you had TC, but you also hired somebody that was like half-time home help
yeah,
and half-time business help. And I thought, you know what, for working moms or working parents, like let's just not say women, right? Just working parents that juggle a lot.
yeah,
Sometimes the help you need is actually at home, right?
yeah.
And I thought that was really
Yeah.
inspirational,
Well, and
creative.
what I tell everyone is you just tape a piece of paper to your desk, take a Sharpie to it and write my not to do list.
Mm.
And so anytime you're doing something at home or at work where you're like, ugh, I don't want to do this, you put it on there and then that becomes a job description for one or multiple people. And there's so many opportunities to leverage in small ways now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we can kind of pick and choose what we want to do. I mean, if you like to cook, go for it. If you don't like to cook, get someone to, help you with cooking. If you like to clean your house, go for it. If you don't like to clean your house, get some help.
I love that. And then you went from that to you started bringing on buyers, agents and stuff like that, and ended up building this huge empire.
Mhm.
So let's talk about where you are today. You're in multiple cities.
Fast forward.
Tell us, yeah, fast forward to what's your
Yeah.
team look like
Yeah.
today?
So let's see. So 13 years later, I guess, we have a team in Austin, a team in Houston. We've been in other cities as well. I had a director of operations who moved to St. Louis, and that's kind of where we started our expansion. That didn't end up working out completely.
But it really
I
gave you the taste for it, right?
Yeah,
It
for
was like
sure.
you went with the
Yeah,
person, right? Hmm.
yeah. And then let's see, I have a home repair and remodeling business. So we started that a couple years ago, which is taken off, obviously, as Austin's booming construction market has gone crazy. I have a great person that runs that.
It's awesome.
And I have a business called Her Best Life, which helps amplify the lives and voices of women in business. And that was exciting. That business went from about a $250,000 business to $1.5 million business pretty much overnight this year, which is really cool.
Wow, that's
And
amazing.
and then I have my podcast, which is called Empire Building, and it's for people who want a big business and an even bigger life. And so we talk about all kinds of things. I have three wonderful co-hosts. We talk about hiring. We talk about losing key employees. We talk about our favorite things. We talk about failure. We talk about being a working parent. Um, all the things, and that's been a fun pandemic project for me.
That, you know what? And congratulations on just getting, named Inman's Podcast of the Year for 2021.
What? I know, it's so great. We didn't even know.
That's amazing. How'd you
We
find
didn't
out?
even know we were nominated. Ben
Oh, you
Kinney
didn't?
texted us. No, Ben Kinney texted us that night, and he was like, "Hey, congrats." We were like, "What? We didn't even know we were nominated." And it was nice because we were like, "Oh, it's probably Keller Williams nominating us," and It was actually our fans.
Oh, well, isn't that
Yeah.
amazing? Well, I
Yeah.
think the whole, well, because I think you hit a raw nerve with people, right? Because you guys are really real about empire building. You tell your stories, you share about the struggle, and then you also give like strategies and a lot of great education in those. I think how many you guys have like a ton of episodes, like, isn't it
Yeah, I think we're
over?
close to 90 now. We're in
Wow,
80
that's what I was
something.
gonna guess. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
we've been
That's
doing
just
it for June was our year anniversary, so a year and a half. Yeah,
wow,
yeah. You know how
incredible.
much it takes.
Yes, it does. Takes a lot. And I just want to thank you for putting so much good out into the world. And y'all are a big inspiration to a lot of people. Another thing I think that stood out for me just early on when you were starting out is you and Jay, like you said, you started as an investor,
Mhm.
right? You started as an investor and then you got your license, said, oh, maybe I'll make like 15 grand to buy another rental property. Like it must make you giggle when you hear that. It just
Well, I found my original like 411 and
oh,
it
you
was kind
did?
of embarrassing. I was like, geez, Wendy, at least like 25,000 your first year. You know what I
I
mean?
know. Hey,
So
honey, whatever got you into real estate is pretty awesome. But I remember you showing me the plan, your financial growth plan that you and Jay had. And let's share with everybody what was that plan? You had a goal, a very specific
yeah.
goal.
Well, so of course the gift that we got was, Jay started working for Keller Williams, and he was actually at one point the lowest paid employee over at KW. I think a lot of people think like, oh, you work with Gary and you're a top agent, and all of this is really easy for you, but everybody starts in the same place.
Mhm.
And so we started. It would have been in 2000, and Mo, uh, who most of you know, was then the president of Keller Williams. She was teaching a class for, there was 30 people at Keller Williams International. Now there's like 500.
Amazing.
Um, and she was teaching a class on how to read a balance sheet. So Keller Williams has been really great, not only in the our market centers, but also at the franchise level of helping people understand how to grow a business.
And wasn't he the only guy that showed up that day?
Yeah, he was the only guy that showed up. And so imagine, Mo, AKA the Velvet Hammer,
Oh my gosh, Mo
talking about
Anderson.
financials. Yeah,
Yeah.
Jay's a French major. So I'm sure he was like, So what I love about that story though is one, Mo taught the class. She
Yes.
sat down with Jay and she uses an opportunity to pour into him. And so whenever I teach, I never care how many people are there. Like I literally do not care how many people are listening because I know that the person that's supposed to be there listening is there
I
listening.
love that. Love that.
And then so it turned into a discussion on how to read your personal balance sheet, and we started to track our net worth at that point, which was really low. We just moved from New York. We were renters. We were about 30. And so our net worth was around $2,000, which, is great because we weren't in debt. However, when I thought about it, I was like, gosh, here we are 2 decades between the two of us of working. We only have $2,000 to show for it. That's like $100 a year. It was
Right.
depressing. And I think about like my parents, they worked their whole life. They were amazing hard workers. And they basically, because they didn't know what choices to make, they ended up with nothing.
Yeah. And that's
And
probably the majority of people
yeah, that's
in the world.
for sure. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, for sure in the world. I mean, at the end of the day, everyone listening is rich beyond measure. I mean,
Yeah.
if you make $30,000 or more a year, you're in the top 10% of income earners in the world. So, which is everybody
That's
listening.
crazy.
We are
Yes.
we are rich beyond measure, and it's just what we do with our money that determines. If we look up one day and we're like, "Wow, what happened here?" Or, we end up poor. So
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So you had a specific goal. Wasn't the goal, was it net?
we
Tell
wanted to
me.
be a net worth millionaire.
Mhm.
Right. So our net worth was around $2,000. And we said in 10 years, we want to become net worth millionaires. And so we were able to achieve that goal in 6.5 years, some of which I was not working. So one of the things that we did is we really, when I got my real estate license, eventually we maintained our lifestyle. And so we really lived below our means in a significant way for many, many years. I mean, we felt poor. We felt
Yeah.
really poor. Even when, we were making a lot of money, we weren't really spending it in a way that made us feel wealthy. And that's the irony of, when people think about being a millionaire, they think they get to spend $1 million, but really it's about keeping the $1 million. That's how you become a millionaire.
Right. I know so many people think it is about the spending, and it's actually that, like Gary always says, right? There's two questions around that. One is making the million and the other is keeping it and what you do with it. Because so you hear about these lottery ticket people, right? Like that win, a gazillion dollars and 3 years later they're broke again.
Yeah, yeah. Or people who are, sports figures. I mean, the majority of people that come and go in the NFL, they're bankrupt within 5 years. And we see it in our industry all the time, is where people escalate their lifestyle to their last commission check.
Mm.
And we never know when, we know that there's going to be a downturn,
Yeah.
right? Even in
Yeah.
Austin, that's going to
Yep.
happen. And we just don't know when it is. And so we need to be acting
Do you
like we're
carry
in a
those
downturn.
habits? Yeah. Do you carry those habits into today, or do you still live well below your means?
Yeah, we definitely do. For sure, there's been some lifestyle creep. Um, but we remodeled our house 2 years ago, and it was
So
a
beautiful.
significant amount of money. It was about $850,000, and we paid cash for it,
Yeah. Amazing.
because we wanted to keep our, payment down. And yeah, and a lot of extra money we have goes into paying down debt and buying investments and things like that. I mean, so yeah, for
Well,
sure.
and that money is well spent though, darling, because where you live and where that house is, the increase, the
Oh yeah.
increases in that neighborhood, that is money well spent because you have just completely transformed that property and
Yeah.
it's amazing, right? And you will
It's
get
been
every
fun.
penny back of what you put
Yeah.
in there
Yeah,
and
yeah,
more.
yeah. And for so many years, we just did all the work ourselves, and,
Yeah.
painted our house room by room and laid down the floors ourselves. And
I love your success story,
yeah,
darling. I just
yeah.
love it. And you're just like, okay, but here the last few years you've been kind of gravitating towards like philanthropic things.
Mhm. Yeah.
Right. And so let's talk about that because you've put on huge events in Austin for, kids, their, like kids going through cancer and their families, and you've done a huge impacts there. You're very involved with K2B Kids Can. Let's talk about that part of Wendy Papasan.
Sure. Well, one of the things I love about Keller Williams is it teaches us how to build a team. And you can build a team and leverage yourself so that you can make money without having to work 40, 50, 60 hours a week. That is, to me, the gift of Keller Williams. There is a great book. It's right here. I pretty much look at it every day. We do basically Bible study with this thing on my team, but
That's one of the originals.
and this is the old one. Yeah, and you can see it's all like it's kind of literally falling apart.
I love it.
But this book will teach you how to build a great business so that you can have a great life. And some people don't want to do that, and that's fine if you want to do all the things. But what I have loved about it is, I do very few sales myself, and I've given that opportunity to other people on my team. So I have people on my team who are making hundreds of thousands of dollars. They're buying investment properties, and I am getting what I want out of the business, and I'm not working full time. I just did a thing recently where I looked at where I spent all my time last year, and so we did about 2.4 million in GCI.
Nice.
And
Congratulations.
thanks. And that was about 27 hours a week for me.
Wow.
Yeah. So, what's great about that is it allows me to do some of these other things that I want to do, which is these side businesses. And then, of course, I'm chairman of the board. I'm about to step down after about 6 years. Somebody else is about to take the reign. And I've been doing that. It's one of Gary's 501c3s that helps young adults fund and figure out their purpose.
Yeah.
And then I have been heavily involved with Heroes for Children, which is a Texas charity that helps kids with cancer. So and honestly, you just can't do that if you're not leveraged. I mean, if there's no way I could have helped 250 families last year on my own.
Okay, so the woman, what I want people to hear from this today is the woman that started with a goal of one thing, right? 13 years ago, of, I'm gonna, the kids are starting school, or the oldest one is, and so I'm gonna get my real estate license so we can make a little bit more money to work towards that net, $1 million worth that they wanted, has now turned into a total empire builder who worked about 27 hours on her business per week to generate 2.4 million in GCI,
It
and
sounds so
serves.
amazing when you say it like that.
It is amazing. It is amazing. And that's why I want people to hear your story, because and you're impacting people at a larger here's the thing is you, to me, my dear, or you're the queen of leverage. Okay. You are the queen of leverage, because like I tell everybody, started this out with, I learned from you. I am your team leader, new team leader coming in. And that's why I love it. I learn from the agents every single day. That was such a significant lesson for me, is to get help at home. And I couldn't do the things that I have gone on to do without that, right? Because at the end of the day, for me, I don't know, and I'm sure you felt the same, my family is super important to me. I'm very close with my children, and I never wanted to like sacrifice that relationship.
Yeah.
It's not worth it.
Yeah.
And yet you've gone on to make such a huge impact and have your hands in the community, not just in real estate, but you've lifted all these people. You've created an opportunity for all these people to join your team and learn from you and have an opportunity they wouldn't have otherwise. Then you've gone into other things. I just think that's just so
Well,
amazing.
it's just what you focus on. You know what I mean? Because it is actually, when you are building your business, sometimes you have to take two steps back to take one step forward. And a lot of people aren't willing to do that because they have accelerated their lifestyle. And so they need to keep that income at a place where they're feeding their lifestyle, right? So if you can say, listen, I'm gonna take some of that money that I'm making and I'm gonna invest it in people and systems,
Yeah.
then you can look up and then you have an asset. So I view my real estate business as an asset that throws off. It's not passive income because I spent 27 hours a week on it last year.
That's right.
But it is, it's not all encompassing. I'm not spending 60, 70 hours. And I still focus on what matters most, which is lead generation. That's still one of my pillars. Okay. When I started out, I got this little bowl here. These are from my wedding. I've got 2 of them. Okay. This is my lead gen system.
I love it.
This one's filled with jewels.
Ooh,
And,
jewels. Oh, show that again. Camera wasn't on you. Show me
okay.
that.
It's filled with little tiny jewels. Okay. They just look like this. They're jewels. Someday it'll be filled with real diamonds. At the bottom of this bowl says, follow your bliss. And so my goal is, every time I talk to someone, I move one of these jewels over. And it's my goal to move as many over every day as possible. It's really simple. It's the system that I used when I first started out. Okay. My goal was to move 5 jewels. That's it. Okay. And success looks different than people think it is. Success is consistent activities over time. I have never, ever, except for the time I did my Bold 100, consistently lead generated for 4 hours a day. I haven't had the time for that. I'm sorry, Gary Keller, if you're listening. But the reality is you can build a big business by learning how to leverage. Okay. That takes time, energy. And honestly, it's tough. Managing people is the most rewarding thing and the hardest thing to do.
Yes.
And then keep your focus on your lead gen, right? How many people are you talking to every single day about real estate? It could be 5, right? Could be 10. And I'll be honest, I don't do it every day. Yesterday I did it. It was great. I got my lead gen and it feels so good. But that's just
and you're lead
gen
gen. Yeah. And you're lead genning for different things too, right? You're lead genning for talent. You're lead genning. There's all kinds of things. I love that visual. They talk about that in Atomic Habits, that visual. And I didn't know you had that with the jewels. I really, really like that. Do you remember how Ken Manso used to have the wine corks?
Yeah.
Right. It's
the same thing. I mean, I literally have been doing this for 13 years.
That's amazing. I love that so much. I love that you said success is consistent activities over time.
That's it.
And people expect success to be this grandiose, I've arrived, right? And it's this little thing over time consistency. And I can't tell you how many people that I have these conversations. I'm like, just focus on 5 a day.
5
What
a
if you
day.
could have 5 a day, 5 meaningful conversations a day? What would your life look like? That's 25 a week. That's 100 a month. Do the math, right? It's just 5 a day, because people are overwhelmed. They hear the 3 to 4 hours of lead generation, and that scares them off a little bit.
The only
And
person
so,
I ever met that did that was Tim Heil. He was incredible.
right, exactly. And that worked great for him, right? And so then
Yeah.
but he had a whole different model, right? And
He was
so
also 21 when he started.
that's right,
Yeah.
exactly. It's fun. So you mentioned Mo Anderson. Mo Anderson is going to be our guest next week. I'm so excited.
Oh, so
Yes.
exciting.
So anyone listening, make sure to join us next week about that. Now back to where you are right now. Like, I know on Sunday you just ran a race and you like placed.
Yeah,
Congratulations on that.
thanks. Thank you.
How does that feel?
Feels great. Yeah, I've kind of been on a health journey this year. I, like a lot of people in COVID, just gained weight last year and woke up one day and I put my underwear on and they were too tight. So I was like, I maybe can wear these loose pants, for a while longer, but I'm not buying new underwear. So, yeah, just my
Right.
husband and I went on a weight loss journey. We just went really low carb, and I lost, I think, about 20 pounds. He lost maybe like 30,
Wow.
30 pounds.
It's amazing.
And yeah, and then our health, my health now. I turned 50 this year, so you know how that goes.
Mhm.
When you turn 50, there's something significant about that where you really realize, like, well, I'm on the downslope probably, and I
I'm never
one of
going to
my
be younger than I am right now.
no exactly
Embrace it.
yeah, and so I want to have an impact, and the way that you do that is you're able to live a long time. That's
Yeah.
part of how you do it, and so I want to be healthy in my body. I want to be able to be healthy in my mind and my body, and so that just looks like, eating right, exercising. I'm not one of these. I don't blow things up. I'm just really not. I don't feel like I'm a particularly consistent person either. But I'm not like, I don't do like the 75 hard and all of that. I don't. That's not me. So
But yet you have great habits. If it makes sense to you, you're willing to create a
yeah,
habit and stick to it. And that's
yeah,
kind of why you succeed. Speaking of that, I love that you mentioned health, and you and I have had many conversations around that, but let's talk a little bit about financial health.
sure.
One thing we didn't mention that you and Jay do, excuse me, one thing that you and Jay do annually, and you have always done that,
Mm.
is you do an annual retreat about what you want to achieve. Tell us about that a little bit. And then that evolved into an actual workshop you do.
Yeah. So when our kids were little, I probably just wanted to get out of town with my husband because my kids are only 15 months apart. So
Yes.
it's a lot. And so I said, let's take this retreat. And on this retreat, I wanted to answer some questions just to kind of get us on the same page. And so we spent the whole weekend. We called it our couples goal setting retreat. And it was so successful that first year that we ended up doing it year after year after year. We would talk about it and we'd share it on social media. And I ended up creating a little PDF for people who would ask about it with the schedule and the questions and all that. And then when Jay started his One Thing business about 5 years ago, Jeff Woods, I guess, who runs that business, said, hey, we should turn this into a seminar. And so we've been doing that for about 5 years now. I think about 1,000 people tuned in virtually this year, and there was a couple hundred out in Lake Travis. And it's been very impactful, especially for Keller Williams people and people who kind of are very entrepreneurial, because sometimes there's one partner who's and I know you're this way in your marriage,
Yes.
Melanie. Yeah, which is one partner who's like a total go-getter, who's like, let's do this. They're leaping forward. I think somebody described it as like, you're in the driver's seat going a million miles an hour, and your partner is in the back seat with the blindfold on, just screaming their head off. And and that can be how it feels sometimes.
Yeah.
And so it's really important to be on the same page. And so, yeah, we just spend 2 days talking about not necessarily only our financial goals, but financial goals, business goals. Where do we want our relationship? How's our sex life?
Yeah.
What do we want for our family? Do we need to save for this? How much money do we need in the bank? What's the retirement? Like all those things that we probably should be having conversations about on a daily basis, but just, life gets in the way. It's busy. You've got sports and kids and, who's got time for all that? So just getting away for a weekend is just really, really valuable.
I love that so much. I think that's so inspiring. Do you guys do like a mid-year check-in on it, or how do you look at that? How do you analyze that throughout the year together?
Yeah, great question. So we have it pretty dialed in now, and I'm trying to like remember what it was like back at the beginning. But we put some of those things on our 411. So I use the 411 pretty heavily, which is Keller Williams' a productivity tool. And so we sort of separate some of the things out. And then last year, I think just because of COVID, we actually did do a mid-year kind of check-in and retreat because I mean, who could plan anything last year? Who
I
could plan
know.
anything this year?
I know.
What's planning? What's
I know.
vacation?
We're
Yeah.
not in control at all. Life just reminding us how, we can control what we do, but we can't control what's going on out there. Right.
No, we cannot.
So
No, we
yeah, for
cannot.
sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love that so much. And I think you're great role models of that. You and Jay are great role models for just being in alignment with where you want to go. Because if you really want to have a long, successful life with your partner, if you don't do that, it's real easy to grow at different paces, right? And I love that kind of realignment on everything. You talk about everything in there. And I just would highly recommend anybody, there's a virtual version of that or the in-person. And I think you guys had the Lakeway Resort or something, looked
Yeah.
beautiful.
You can actually Google, the kick-ass guide to couples goal setting,
Which is amazing.
and the PDF will just show up. Or you can go to the one thing, it's the number one thing.com, and then you can find it there. And so you kind of have like three options. One is the free one that you do on your own, and then one is facilitated virtually, and then one is more of like a VIP experience where you get to hobnob with everyone, and it's like in person. So
I love that. And the one thing that's with the one, the one thing.com has so many resources like that. There's the kick-ass goal setting guide for couples. There's one for yourself. There's the 411. So if those of you who are listening right now, who are not KW, you can go on that website, and there's a lot of cool tools that you can use in any business. This is not just real estate related. This is life related. This is right.
Well, and you don't have to be a couple to go. There are a lot of single people that go, and then there are a lot of business partners that go as well.
Great point. Yeah, great point. And you know what I think about that, which I hadn't thought of before, is, because you're in, our children are, like I said, similar ages. And now I think of, we have both exposed our kids to this, right? Because they've lived it. They know this. We talk about big picture. We talk about financial. We talk about wealth building with our kids.
Mhm.
And I think that's why you and I were so passionate about KW Kids Can, which we've taught that together.
Yes.
And just, I love that that's kind of the version. So if you're hearing this and you see one of these seminars put on by KW Kids Can for, what's the new name of it? Is there a new?
It's KWKC. Yeah, you go to kwkc.org.
Okay.
And there's classes all over the place. And then we actually have Gary teaches Quantum Leap. And I actually have it for once. He's booked it way out.
Oh, nice. Yeah. This is
If you guys
must.
can,
Yeah.
let me just kind of look at my calendar here.
Yeah, Gary does it once a year in person in Austin, and it's a whole event for these young
and it's
adults.
it's really for the associates children, KW associates or young KW associates. And it is for like 18 to 26 or something like that.
Yeah.
'Cause I know your oldest went.
Yeah, he went right when I was like, can I get him in? He was a senior. He was just graduating. He just graduated high school. So he was 18. Yeah.
Yeah.
He said in that room, he's like, oh my gosh, I totally get why you just admire Gary Keller so much. I totally get it. He was so impressed by the way he talked and how real he was with them. Really changed his whole mindset on Gary Keller.
Yeah, it's amazing. Well, I can't find it right now, so I'm
It's
not gonna.
usually June, right? It's usually June sometime.
It's July, I
It's
think, this
July. Okay.
year. I'm just trying to find it on my calendar, but that's probably not the best way to go about it. So yeah. Anyway, we'll figure it out.
Yeah. Well, so anyway, but they can find that on
Yeah,
kwkc.org
KWKC.
also, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
Okay, cool. So you have been leading the charge on that and for 4 years, 5 years,
I've been a board member for 7 years now, and
7 years board member.
I've been chairman of the board for 6 years. So
That's amazing. That's amazing.
yeah,
All right. So with all these, you and I have been, compared to Jay, we're like newbies, but we've seen a lot in the market, right?
yeah,
Reno, when I got started, was crazy, crazy distressed property. I moved to Austin. You had started here. It was kind of funky at the time. And then, man, did we have explosive growth in Austin. And then now, boom, the pandemic hits. Through all those markets, what how do you think your team has just managed to continue to just grow and be better and better, and you've allowed yourself or created a company that you still with 27 hours a week could do 2.4 million GCI, like with all the world changing, what do you attribute your flexibility or growth to?
Um, well, I think I am pretty good naturally at pivoting, and I am sort of good in a crisis. So I think weirdly, a lot of leaders actually enjoyed 2020, which is weird to say. I don't know if you were one of those, Melanie, but I think a lot of us were like, yeah, let's tackle this, you know.
Right, new challenge. Yeah.
Um, but I think for me, it's really always remembering why I do what I do every day. So going back to my big why, because there have been many days, many hours, many weeks where I've wanted to quit. I'm like, it's too hard. I got a complaint. This person yelled at me. I didn't do this right. I'm beating myself down. Somebody left me. Somebody else left me. Somebody else left me. And if it's a beat down business in a way because you're taking in everybody's energy. So you have to be really clear about why you're in business. And several years ago, I got really clear on my mission. And so I do believe that everybody is here for a reason. And if you don't know what your mission is, then your mission is to figure out what your mission is. And so for me, my mission is to empower and inspire big thinking leaders to create lives of abundance. And there's nothing about real estate in there whatsoever. And running towards that mission has allowed me to create amazing opportunity for people on my team. And I look back and, I get messages from the first buyer agent that ever worked for me that says thank you so much for inspiring me. And they have a big team now at the
Yes.
Southwest Market Center. And I have other people that have been on my team over time. And it's when bad things happen and you feel bad, it's really your ego talking. And not to say I don't have an ego, I do have a big one. But if you can wake up every day and really think about why you're on this earth, and let that guide you, then that can be really, really powerful. And it doesn't happen every day. Like I said, there's plenty of days where I quit. I don't want to do it. It's not fun. It's boring. This is
Yeah.
boring. It's boring.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
And yet, if you can be consistent over time in not everything, in the things that matter. So lead generation, learning how to leverage yourself, getting your health right, right? Getting your family in the right place, right? So you spend time with people that you love. You can look up and you can look back and just think, wow, how far have I come in the last 13 years? I mean, it's truly, to me, it's mind-boggling. And I really do feel that way when you say those things. I'm like, what? That
Yeah.
is crazy.
Yeah.
But that's the gift of, consistent activity over time.
It's a beautiful answer. I just had a flashback of you sitting in my office the first year you were interviewing for ALC, which is the Associate Leadership Council. It's a top well, now it's top 10%. And to see, I always knew you were destined for big stuff. Like, you always can see that in others.
You're
And
sweet.
I always knew
I
it.
knew it.
I did. I
Mhm.
really did. And so to see where you are today, like I'm so excited to see uh, just the continued impact you'll make um, in your life, because I love how you've just branched out to lifting other people's, like with Her Best Life. I think that's an amazing organization you guys have started to really help people. Just you're tapping into stuff that's really necessary
Yeah.
for people.
Well, and the advice that I would give to people starting out is the same advice that I heard Gary say was, he built Keller Williams. He talks about Keller Williams being a training and coaching company disguised as a real estate business. And that's at his heart. He's a teacher at his heart. And I can remember starting out, being an e-edge trainer, teaching in the market center, all of those things, which was not qualified for. But the best way to learn, at least for me, is to teach.
Yeah.
And so if you can, and that's why I'm here, to empower and inspire big thinking leaders to create lives of abundance. And the only way I can do that is to get out and teach and speak and things like that, and share my story. And if you can do that, because everybody has a truly amazing story to share,
Yeah.
and then like everything else, you're going to get better and better and better, and
Yeah.
you're going to learn from teaching.
You are. In fact, speaking of teaching, Wendy and I will be teaching career visioning in the coming months in person in Austin. And we're very, very excited for that. Once we get this all calmed down, we are very excited. I'm really excited to teach
Me
that
too.
together. It's going to be a blast. I really look forward to that. One question I always ask and you've answered it kind of, but I want to hear your direct answer. I always love to ask the guests, what does playing to win look like for you?
Mhm. Well, for me, playing to win is, I don't know, that's such a good question. Playing to win.
So the reason I came up
Well,
with this name, I don't know, did I tell you why I started this?
no, tell me.
Okay, so I started this beginning of 2021 because I felt like 2020 was a lot of playing not to lose, right? We had a lot of like, what just happened? The world just stopped. And so I said 2021, I'm going to start a series called Playing to Win. And I'm going to feature people that I think are big winners in life. And then my podcast is called The Second Half because I changed the name a little, but I take these interviews so it lives on two platforms. And the second half is, not only, some of us are over 50, but that's really not the reason. It's like in any game, the second half is where you either fail. It's kind of like you said with losing with, or keeping your money.
Hmm.
It's how you show up in the second half that actually is more important than even the first half.
It's true. Yeah. Yeah. Well, like for me, I'm not a lot of people, a lot of real estate agents, they have that Strengths Finder Achieve. I don't have that in my like top 10 or anything like that. So I have never really played to win, although I do enjoy winning. For me, it's really about, winning is really about the journey, because I remember, Tim Heil, and so many people have said this, that when they've achieved what they want, it feels very hollow and empty. And so for me, it's really about the journey and about the people that I can give opportunity to along the way. And I think about building this real estate team, and I've just fired myself from so many jobs. I fired myself from being my own personal assistant, being a housekeeper. I fired myself from doing contract to close, dealing with my database. I fired myself from being a showing assistant. I fired myself from being a buyer's agent, a listing agent, and really, I mean, either I'm really bad at everything and leadership is the last option for me,
Which
or
is not the case,
yeah,
obviously.
or playing to win is, how can you help other people grow and have opportunity along the way? And So to me, you know, when I'm an old, crazy old lady, doing my thing, whatever I'm doing,
Running some
I
marathon in France or something.
I don't know. I didn't do sports as a kid or anything like that. So like everything kind of still works. So that is like a secret goal, is to be like crazy old 90-year-old lady winning marathons and stuff like
I
that.
love that. It's so cool.
Well, the numbers just work better at
Yeah.
that point.
Less competition.
Yeah, exactly. And but like that is really the thing. So like playing to win is really like how many people can you lift up,
Yeah.
lift up and elevate. And that's really what I've been doing in my real estate business, in Her Best Life. And we talk about that on the podcast. So
You're
that's what
very
Keller
humble.
Williams does.
Yeah, it does. It really does. It's who you become here, right? And I'm so grateful that we all found ourselves in this community of each other. And playing to win really is it's not just about an accolade or a title or whatever. It's always about reinventing yourself. Because like you said, we all set these goals, and when we hit them, unless you have another goal, it's not good, right? Because either you're going to be
Yeah.
dissatisfied.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the one thing will tell you that the purpose of a goal is who you become along the way, right? It's like
Yes.
the purpose of a marathon is not to finish the marathon. The purpose of the goal of finishing a marathon is to become the kind of person who has grit and athletic ability, who can finish a marathon. And it's the same with building a business. It's like I think about everything that I've learned. I had never built a business before. I didn't know anything about hiring and managing people and all that. And it's all been a beautiful, messy, um, exhausting, joyful growth journey for me. So,
Yes.
yeah. And
Amazing.
what's the alternative? The alternative is an average life.
Yeah.
That's it. That's your
Right.
choice. So,
And
like, you get to choose your hard. Either you choose your hard and have an amazing life, or you have a dull life and you end up poor, and that's hard too.
and I love that you said that, because either way you go, whether you go the route you went or had you stayed and worked for the state, hard was going to show up, right? Hard is going to show up. And so every day you have a choice to decide that. So if you're listening to this and you're somebody that's not feeling like they're on the path where they need to be, it's just a decision away. And I know that sounds so easy, but it is if you really decide that. And to me, that's what you're hearing with Wendy's whole story today around playing to win. Is it's incremental, right? It's one step in front of you now, getting you to where you want to go, right? And having a long-term goal. And we just did the 12-week year, Wendy, seminar, and it's so cool how you have your long term. It's like the one thing you have your long term, and you just break it and go backwards. And it's like, what's the thing right now that's going to get me in that direction? And some of it, for some people, it could be just talk to 5 people a day. It could be as simple as that.
It's always about your choice with your time. I mean,
Yeah.
it's extraordinary to me. People talk about not having enough time, and for most of us, we have so much time that we waste during a day. I mean, we have just so much time, and it's because we're never really focused on the activities that matter most, which is why I do this exercise. I've done it for 2 years in a row, where I've painfully gone back and I looked at my calendar and I figured out how much time I spent on some of these big rocks. And then what that allows me to do is to say, well, can somebody else do this at least 80% better, at least 80% as well as I'm doing it? And honestly, I'm not, like I said, obviously I'm not that great at anything. And so there have always been people who can do something as well as 80% as I'm doing it. And that allows me then to get that chunk of my time back, right? To do other stuff, whatever I want.
That's really good. And I think that some of the, over the years, the agents I consult, so many of it's the letting go and would not being okay with somebody that's 80%, but you know what, after they come in and learn the role, they may be 120% better, they may be better than you, right? And so, but it's the letting go. How are you going to get whatever it is in your life that you want? More time with your family, more time for health, whatever, just balance. It's not always about money,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
It's about the
control is an
quality of life.
illusion anyway. So if you think that, and honestly, if you think that you're the best at everything that you do in your real estate business, that's just ego.
Yeah,
Yeah. Like, who
exactly.
wants to be really good at putting signs in the yard?
Woohoo! Exactly. Hey, Wendy, I want to open it up in case anybody in the audience has any questions for us, because I said that I would. Rachel or anyone have a question for our guest today? Oop, I don't have the chat open. Anybody have anything? It's your chance.
I just had a question about, you said go to the number one thing. Is that number one, is that the number sign, or is that the word one, or just the number one?
Yeah.
So
THE one, number one thing.com.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, Rachel's one to watch. She's up and coming. So she's out there hitting the pavement. I love it. All right. If
Thanks,
there's
Melanie.
Yeah. Well, thanks for being on the call. And I don't see anything in the live stream chat. I see people viewing, but nothing in the comments there. So, Wendy, let's leave them with a last parting thought. What's, with all that you have in your world right now, what's the one thing that you're most excited about? And the last thought you'd like to leave with the listeners today?
Well, so my focus for 2022 is really my family this year. So I've got a son who's a junior, and so it's all about college prep, and then I've got a sophomore at home too. So I'm going to be an empty nester here pretty quick. And so for me, it's just being purposeful about spending time with my family, and yeah, so that's my big word for 2020 is my kids.
That's wonderful. And there is something in life that when you see the time ticking, it just makes it so valuable, right? Like I just want to spend Sam's a senior now. And it's like, I'm just ticking. It's like, okay, every minute I can we just hang out?
Well, he's racing to get out the door, isn't he?
Oh, he is. Yeah. He'll be in Europe in no time. Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? We raise our kids to be that way, right? We raise them to be independent world travelers, I guess. So that's a good thing, I guess. And it's a reflection of relationships and time and energy you put into building their self-confidence. I don't know if that to me is playing to win when you see your next generation able to go out there and see that anything's possible.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yep. For sure.
That's very exciting. Okay. So Wendy, thank you for your time. What's the best way for people to follow you, find you? So we said the one thing, we have that website, but how would they find more about?
Well, you can go to empirebuildingpodcast.com, and that's a good way to listen to the podcast. It's a bright yellow square. You can't miss it anywhere you listen to podcasts, Apple or Spotify. And I'm definitely on Instagram a lot. So I have a really weird last name, and I'm pretty easy to find that way. And my handle is just my name. So at Wendy Papasan.
I love it. Wendy, I'm so proud of you. And I can't wait to teach career visioning with you sometime this year. And just thank you for all that you do. Thank you for your time today. And just what inspiration. I just love the success is consistent activities over time. And you guys need to learn how to leverage, keep focus on lead generation, and figure out your mission, right? That's what I got out of figure out. If you don't know what that is, go find it and reach out for help if you're having a challenge finding that, because it will drive everything else, right?
Yep.
All right.
Love it. Bye, guys.
Thank you, Wendy. Thanks everybody
for having me.
Thank you for joining. Okay. Bye,
Thank you so much, Wendy. Thank you, guys.
Bye.